Hello, fabulous friends and family. Sally the Seeker here. I hope everyone is doing well. I know this is going to be hard to believe, but this is the final video for Darrell's, I'm going to call him Delirious Darrell's, cross-examination of Detective Carpenter. It took him, I know it was over 2 hours. I'm going to say probably about 2 hours, 15, 16 minutes to be almost exact. And what's funny is that at the end, when he finally finished and really got nowhere, just asked a bunch of nonsensical questions like we know. So for the redirect, Attorney Basie took maybe 5 to 6 minutes, and in that short time summed up a lot of stuff that Darrell tried to disprove from Detective Carpenter during that 2.5, sometimes painful hours. So that goes to show an attorney, a real attorney, really does do better than a pretend one. So before we get started, I did want to say a few things. Number one, I caught up reading your comments from my past videos from the past week or so. And as always, thank you so much. You all are such a bright, funny, and a really nice group of people. It's just, I don't know, it floors me. And I'm just so appreciative. I mean, people are, talking nicely, and I don't know, it's not that I don't think there's plenty of good in this world, but some people can be so, such jerks. And I really appreciate you all sticking with me and your kind words. I truly, truly appreciate it. I really do. And I wanted to say to, let me see if I can find here yet. Up. Thank you again to Jay Nichols, 69, for correcting my title. Well, the usage of the word, I think I put unruffle in it because I knew what I meant to say, but I didn't change it back to ruffle in my last video, and you said it correctly, and I really appreciate that. That really does help me. So any help like that, I appreciate it, because I do like to get things right, but sometimes the mind just doesn't catch everything. And so when you all do, thank you so much. So thank you, Jay Nichols. I also had some requests from one of our fellow seekers, Amanda Page, who has always been so supportive in comments and just leaves very nice comments, very thought-provoking ones and humorous ones. And Amanda, I did see where you had asked in a prior video, you had talked about 2 cases that, well, I can see why you would be interested in them. And one of them was, okay, all of a sudden now I'm trying to find it. One of them was the Shanda Vander case, and the other one was the Hannah Payne case. And both of them just happened last month. So the trials both occurred, the sentences were handed down, and they are, wow, it's something else. So I was going to ask you all, I've already looked into both of them. Now, the Shanda Vander Ark one is, woo, that's heavy duty. That is really heavy duty, of course, as if you all know anything about it. But I think you had, sorry, I mean, I bumped this. I don't mean sorry, well, I do mean Amanda, but I'm saying sorry, you guys, because I bumped this, and then it was like everything was going cattywampus, typical for me. But Amanda, you had suggested maybe, if nothing else, with the Shanda Vander Ark one, showing the cross-examination, which I have not watched yet. But I have watched a good bit of it. I mean, not a lot, but enough to see what a horrendous thing that she did to that poor child. And it looks like to me, excuse me, that the son who participated in the torture of his brother probably was heavily influenced by Shanda, who, I guess, from what I'm seeing, went to law school and she was a law clerk. But when I kept seeing her with those braids, all I could think of was Pippi. So now all I can think of is I'm going to call her Pippi. And it's not by any means to make light of the case. But as you all know, most of you all who know me, is I have to insert some humor, not about what happened to the people, but kind of more like roasting the perpetrators. But I mean, all I could think of is, what are you doing with those braids on? That just looks ridiculous. So she's Pippi. Now the Hannah Payne one, it's the trial. I mean, I've already almost watched the whole trial. It goes by pretty fast. So I'm thinking about if you all think you would be interested, or I could just start playing it and see what you all think. That's also quite the case. But it's a lot shorter. But, it's one of these vigilante people who, they think they're doing good, but I think they're more about, just by what I've observed, more about being right and, I'm going to get this person, and being, seemingly judgmental, not knowing all about the person, just gung-ho. And that's, I said gung-ho. I didn't say the other word. So, yeah. And just messing up terribly. That's all I'll say about that one. But I will probably start, if that works for you all, start covering the Hannah Payne one, and then maybe doing, as Amanda had suggested, the cross-exam of Pippi or Shanda Vander. And I have to dig deeper into that. But the past few days, I've really been digging deep into this Hannah Payne thing. And it's really, I think the tough part about that one is that it really could have been avoided. For those of you who have seen it. Those of you who have not, I'll start shooting some of the court. Not shooting the court, really shooting. Recording the court. Because a lot of times I notice in that they'll get witnesses up there and they're only there for about 5 minutes and then they're gone. And then poor Hannah. I'm not sure what I'm going to call her. Maybe High Horse Hannah, because she did get a bit on her high horse. In my opinion, it seemed like she kind of was really on her high horse. Now, not to say I'm always like, well, I read the old Nancy Drew books, right? And so I'm always like wanting to find something, but it's not like I'm going to go approach anybody. It's like my niece and I, and this is when we're grown-ass women, okay? So we love to be out in nature, and we're always walking. We're always like, what if we find something suspicious? And one day we went by this place. It was just a really swampy area, kind of out in the wilderness, and we saw this backpack in the water. And of course, we're one of these people who our minds get the best of us, and we get very creative. That's probably why I'm a little cuckoo and like true crime. So we're sitting there thinking, what could be in there? What if it was a severed head? What if it was somebody drowned a bunch of kittens? Which all sounds horrible because we didn't want to find that. But then we got really curious and, wild stories in our head. So we did get a fishing pole and it was empty. So, but I'm just saying that, we get excited about things like that, but we're not going to go actually chase after and pursue somebody. That's just a recipe for disaster and tragedy, which definitely happened in this Hannah Payne case. But I would love for you to share that with you all, or those of you who watch it can watch along with us, and we'll just go from there. But if any of you all have any other requests, I would be more than happy to try to fulfill that for you, because, that's what it's about. I want to put on here what you all like, and so I know I've almost spent 10 minutes, so I'm going to get right into the Darrell thing. So, just a few things I wanted to say about this last time. I think what annoyed me so much, one of the things that really annoyed me about Darrell and this long marathon cross-examination of Detective Carpenter is that he kept referring him to himself as the detainee. And I'm just like, fool, we all know that you're the one. You don't have to say detainee. But also I want to remind you, when we left off on the last one, Detective Carpenter Darrell had been asking him about, did he think that he would be able to get more answers out of him, if Detective Carpenter would be able to get more answers out of Darrell if the FBI was not present. And Detective Carpenter said yes, he thought that to be so, because Darrell seemed more nervous when the FBI was present, and when it was just Detective Carpenter and the other detective, Darrell seemed more ease, comfortable, and just seemed like he would, respond better without the FBI. And of course, Darrell, being Darrell, says, I think this was like I said at the end of the last video, said something like, well, something like, to be fair, I don't know if it would be fair to say that you don't know what's going on inside of my head right now, or you don't know what I'm thinking or feeling right now. And Detective Carpenter said, no, I can't say that I could get inside your head. Just look at Detective Carpenter, how cool he was, even in that suit. I would have been sweating like a pig. But he was very cool. But he said, no, I can't get inside your head, but I just think that just by you appear calm, and that's just how I saw you. And then, of course, something to the effect of, Darrell asks, do you have a background in psychology? And he says, no. And so that's where it left off. And so now he's going to continue on. But I can't believe, I will have to say in this video, I cannot believe that he is still obsessed with the FBI. And he's already asked multiple questions, and he continues to bring the FBI back into it. Now, I definitely think he was scared that the FBI was introduced. But I also think there was a part of him that was excited, thinking, oh, well, this will only add to my fame of the FBI was interested in me, and I'm such a hotshot attorney, and even though I have to look up and refer to Post-it notes on the ceiling that I don't know who the hell put up there, but that's just me making that up. But he just his self-importance just makes me want to retch. The other thing that made me laugh is he always is asking about the reports, which waste so much time. And how do you write your report? Do you remember when you wrote it? And then he was describing how he dictates it into a phone. Detective Carpenter said that. Well, what does dictate mean? And I'm like, oh, for the love of everything that's holy. And so Darrell holds up his hand, like a phone, his thumb and his pinky. He says, so you talking to it. He said, you put your hand up like this. And then what did you dictate? How many reports? All this is, I don't know. It's just so annoying. It really is funny how Brooks is asking Detective Carpenter all about, how did you know about my children and this and that, as if Detective Carpenter is not supposed to be privy to that information. He is, again, Detective Carpenter is not on trial. But I think Brooks feels like it's, like a privacy issue, or, he's not supposed to withhold information, that he's supposed to, certainly he's been through enough police interrogations to know, right? But he just, He's just trying to question every little thing and trying to stump Detective Carpenter. I really have to give props to Detective Carpenter for being so calm. I mean, this is an extremely long interrogation, and there's probably like about an hour left of it. Of course, I'm breaking it up the best I can. But all of these are just nonsensical questions, and again, have nothing to do with anything. It's like he's trying to do that gotcha thing with Detective Carpenter, but he really needs to worry about himself. But then again, maybe he knows he's just going to use this time to shine and drag out everything. Okay, let's see what he has next. But he's, he really he thinks he's going to outsmart Detective Carpenter. But let's face it, he's barking up the wrong tree.
And there was a point in the second interrogation when you were attempting to show the detainee a video. Almost as if you was forcing it in his face. What were you attempting to show the detainee?
I was attempting to show you a video of when you drove your vehicle through the parade route.
Any reason why you were being so forceful in trying to do that?
Well, I felt it was very important for you to see the damage that was caused from the incident. And Detective Stern made the statement as well. You were asking for more information, so we attempted to show you more information.
Yes, correct. I remember that.
Would it be fair to say that the question of asking for more information was asked even on the first night during the first interrogation?
He didn't know all that then.
Yes.
You're just looking worse and worse. And Darrell never forces anything on anyone, does he? Subject matter jurisdiction.
Do you recall making a report of the night that, let me back up. Do you recall writing a report of your interactions with the detainee on the first night and the second morning?
Yes.
And did you write the report yourself?
So how it's done is I dictate it and then it is typed by someone else.
What do you mean by dictated?
So there's a phone system that I talk into and it's recorded and then it's later typed.
Do you recall who types it?
One of our clerical staff, I don't know specifically who it was.
So you made reference to a phone. You gestured with your right hand and made a phone, I guess, symbol.
He's trying to do like
So I'm assuming
the judge does.
that records what's being said. That'd be fair to say?
Yes, when I'm speaking into the phone.
Oh my God.
And at that time, speaking into the phone, were you stating verbatim? Was it off the top of your head what you remember, or did you, I guess what I'm saying is, did you speak into that phone based on a report that you had already previously written or had obtained?
Well, I guess I want to make sure I understand the question. Could you ask it again so I understand?
I guess I can be more clear.
Finally, you're admitting that you weren't clear. Good for you. You're still going to prison, though.
I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, by speaking into this phone, would that have been what you recalled at the time, or would it have been based on a report that was already written by you or someone else?
He does.
Okay. There was no prior report, so that what I speak into that phone and what is typed is my best recollection of the events at that time.
That just gave me a little clarity. I knew what I was trying to say, I just couldn't.
Yeah. Just move on. We're not amused. He's running out of stuff. Detective Carpenter's wearing you down.
So at that time, when you spoke into the phone, you hadn't yet filed your report at that time.
Correct. As I'm talking, I'm completing it. So it goes into a recording and then it's later typed.
And then is it filed after being typed?
Yeah, eventually it's sent to court.
Do you recall if that was, I'm guessing that would be the night of the second interview or sometime after that?
Yes, it was the night of the second, after that interview had been completed.
After that second interrogation, had you learned any more information additionally that you didn't have during the first and second interrogations?
Yes.
And did you put that into your report?
I believe I did, if it's the one thing I'm thinking of, yes.
Do you recall how many reports you filed in relation to this incident?
I think 4, maybe 5.
Why so many?
Well, you have to understand that after the second interrogation, the investigation wasn't simply complete. There were additional things that need to be done, and additional things I assisted with that led to other supplements being done.
And do you recall, well, let me back up a minute. You said 4 or 5 reports?
I believe so. I don't know the exact number.
Do you recall when the last one was completed?
I believe in June.
Why so long?
And would the June report contain additional information that you didn't have in November of 2021?
I don't recall either that or clarification. I'd have to see the report, I guess, to know exactly what you were driving at.
You don't recall what you reported?
Well, come
Not
on.
exactly.
Darrell, come on. You don't recall? You're not
Do you
doing...
recall what you reported in the second report?
Not exactly, no. I believe... I don't want to speculate.
It's not like you're the only
So it'd be
one.
fair to say you don't recall the one when you spoke into the phone and
Oh my
it was
gosh.
recorded and then typed?
Well, they were all done the same way.
All reports are done the same way.
Oh my gosh. This is like, he's getting nowhere. These are such stupid questions. But hey, I guess all they have is time there, right?
And do you recall coming to the Waukesha County Jail to serve any warrants in relation to this incident?
Yes, I do.
Do you remember what they were for?
Yes, it was a search warrant for your jail property.
And do you recall what that jail property was?
Property that would have been turned over to the custody of jail at the time that you were. So personal belongings.
And what would personal belongings refer to exactly?
Are you asking, it could be anything you had with you. Are you specifically wanting to know what I seized?
Yes.
Your red t-shirt that you were wearing on the 21st and 22nd of November, the blue jeans, as well as socks.
And do you recall why you needed to seize the clothing?
Evidence.
Yes, the determination was made to go back and seize the clothes as it's the items you were wearing during the event. The parade event is what I mean by event.
Would that be the only reason why you needed to seize the clothing?
There was also possible DNA evidence, but I do not know how that came back.
Did you yourself inspect the clothing?
I just retrieved it from the property, put it in a bag, and brought it back to the police department.
Do you recall if you seized anything else besides the clothing?
Not from your property at the jail, I didn't.
And do you recall if that was the only time you came to the Waukesha County Jail to serve a warrant?
Correct, that's the only time I recall.
Do you recall when that was?
November 30th, 2021.
So roughly about a week after the incident?
9 days.
And you made reference to bringing it back to the department. Did you learn who would be inspecting the clothing?
No, I believe it would have gone out to the state crime lab.
Did you obtain any additional information from the state crime lab?
I don't believe I've received any information from the state crime lab personally.
I want to go back a little bit, specifically to the night of the arrest. When did you arrive on scene to Elizabeth Street?
Shortly after you had been taken into custody.
When you arrived, what did you see?
Can't recall exactly. I believe you were already in the back seat of a squad car.
So at that time, suspect was already detained.
You were detained.
Suspect.
You.
Already
Suspect
detained.
is you, Darrell Brooks.
Yeah, I love it.
Can you strike that last comment?
That was his response. It will stand.
And did you do any search of the area at that time?
I love it.
I did not know.
And what did you do from that point?
At that point, myself and Detective Stern were assigned to follow Specialist Mark Howard, whose vehicle you were ultimately placed in, and follow him to our substation, where you were taken.
Do you recall?
Looking at his posters
Let me
again.
back up. Do you recall seeing a lot of different law enforcement there from different jurisdictions?
Yes, I do.
What else do you recall about the scene as far as law enforcement personnel?
Basically just that they were there.
Do you recall any weapons being drawn at that point, or?
I did not see any officers with weapons drawn when I arrived. There were officers with rifles across their chest, but they were not pointing them at anyone.
Any distinct vehicles, to your recollection, utilized by law enforcement?
Just squad cars, marked squad cars that I recall.
Do you recall seeing a vehicle that was more like a ground rover type vehicle?
No, sir, I don't.
What does this have to do with his case and saving himself?
And so once you came to the scene, learned that the suspect was in custody, you followed the other officer to I'm guessing the police station or whatever it was?
The substation.
Substation. I'm sorry. Substation.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
He's really just repeating things he already knows, but he's doing it to sound smart. Or doing it to try to sound smart.
And what information did you have at that time in regards to the investigation?
The information, again, was still very limited. That you'd been loitering in the area, would receive calls, and that you were identified as a possible suspect that was in the vehicle.
Did you yourself receive those calls or any of those calls?
You mean as in like the phone calls?
Yeah, in reference to the loitering.
No, those went into dispatch and then they were broadcast over the police radio, which I heard.
And did you immediately respond to that radio call?
Yes, I made my way to that area.
The area of Elizabeth Street.
Yes, sir.
Do you recall what time that was?
It was right around, took place over a few minutes, 5:30, 5:35, getting a little after 5:30.
And what time did you arrive to the scene?
I don't know the exact time.
I want to go back to the phone really quick in reference to the phone. In the exhibit that we were shown, you made reference to not wanting someone else to claim the phone? Do you recall saying that?
Yes.
What reason would someone else claim a phone that isn't theirs?
Could be their own reasons. One thing we have to do once we have possession of property, we have to make sure that we release it to the appropriate person. So that would be important.
Is it fair to say that all property obtained from a detainee is sealed?
I guess, what do you mean by sealed?
Like placed in a sealed bag, pursuant to whoever the property belongs to, it's sealed.
Typically, we would take property and probably put it in a paper or plastic bag. We don't necessarily seal it and then place it in a locker.
Would you write on the bag who the property belongs to?
Well, if it's personal property and it's going to be returned, it would go in a locker, typically that's associated with their cell. But if it's evidence, it would go, to a different place. It depends on the type of property you're talking about.
Would it be some type of identifying something to identify the property to the owner of the property?
Yes.
When you came to the Waukesha County Jail to serve the warrant for the clothing or personal property, as you stated it, was that property sealed?
It was in a secure room.
Was it sealed?
Like the bag it was in? No.
The bag was just wide open?
I don't recall if it was wide open. They have it in a property bag that I don't remember the exact conditions of it.
Did it have any identifying name on it or a birthday or?
They utilized a system in which they looked up your name and the bag had a number. The number was associated to your name. So they were able to find it that way. And then, once I got in the bag, I recognized the clothing as your clothing.
So it'd be pretty fair to say that the system that they use is pretty easy to identify what property belongs to whom.
It seemed to be. To get the specifics on it, you'd have to ask them, but they looked up your name, hit a number, and your bag came right across.
Does your agency use a similar method?
Oh my gosh. Why is it the prosecution
What
saying
method does your agency use
relevancy?
to identify property?
My agency would simply, we're not a large county jail, so we only hold about 5-6 people at a time. We would take personal property, put it in a paper bag, put that paper bag in a locker that typically would correspond with the cell number that you were placed in. And then your property would also be documented on an electronic form, so we knew it belonged to you.
You made reference to not being a large county jail. Are you referring to the holding station?
Our standard department that we're back in now has a municipal lockup. Correct. It's very small.
So it'd be the holding station.
I call it the police station, the booking room.
Police station, substation, holding station.
Yeah.
He's really getting some good questions in.
At any time during this second interrogation, were there any other law enforcement watching the interrogation from another location?
Yes, there were.
Can you explain why?
Well, again, the FBI was present in a different room because we still did not know whether there was a terrorist nexus to this incident at that point.
Is that the only other law enforcement that was watching the interrogation?
There may have been some of our own officers. I don't know if they were moving around the building or I don't know what they were doing.
So it'd be fair to say you can't recall?
Correct.
These are so... so ridiculous.
If at that time there was still uncertainty about the nature of the incident, to the point that the FBI still were kind of involved at that point, any reason why they wouldn't accompany you and your partner for the second interrogation as they did with the first?
Objection, relevance.
Grounds.
Sustained.
Yeah, come on. It's
Relevance, 90611.
see, the judge sounds tired. I think she's just like, come on, wake up, judge, wake up, prosecution. Tell him to stop. He's not asking anything.
Is there any reason why the FBI can conduct their own interrogation?
Objection. Calls for speculation.
Yes,
Sustained.
thank you. You're just pulling things out of your butt now. I mean, you've been the whole time, but you're really digging deep in your butt for these. He has no worries, though, about wasting everyone's time.
If you knew at that time that you and your partner would be conducting the second interrogation, why did the FBI need to be present?
FBI again?
Grounds.
Asked and answered.
Asked and answered. Thank you. Yeah,
Answered.
It's sustained.
you're
Said
asking.
asked and answered.
Yes,
You've asked why the FBI was there multiple times.
multiple times.
Your 90611, please move on.
Please, for the love of everything that's holy, move. You're just circling now. You're going, everything's the same ass question.
Is it standard procedure for other law enforcement to watch interrogations from another location?
Objection, relevance.
Grounds.
Overruled, you may answer.
Oh my gosh.
I wouldn't say it's standard, but this wasn't also a standard incident.
So the magnitude of the incident is what prompted the change?
That's right.
The
Do you
magnitude.
recall who made that determination?
Objection calls for speculation, relevance.
He asked, do you know? So overruled, the witness may answer.
So I'm sorry, just so I understand the question correctly. Why the FBI is the question why they'd be there at all?
No, that wasn't the question.
What is it again?
The question was pertaining to standard procedures.
Okay.
Yeah, continue.
And I believe the question was,
You asked who made the determination to allow for other agencies to
Why
observe the
did you
viewer
help
and
him,
interrogation.
Judge?
thank you.
You're welcome.
Ugh.
I don't know exactly. I only know that the FBI became involved due to the terrorist concern, so that's why they were there.
My question wasn't towards the FBI. It was law enforcement in general. Just to give more clarity, the question was, did you know who made the determination for other law enforcement to watch from another location?
No.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Were you at any time aware that there would be other law enforcement watching the second interrogation?
I knew the FBI was coming back, yes.
Did you know if there would be any other law enforcement outside of the FBI, like from your agency or anything like that? Were you aware that they would be watching as well?
Objection, relevance.
Grounds.
Overruled, the witness may answer.
Ugh.
Not that I knew of.
but you do recall other law enforcement outside of the FBI being present.
Yeah, so we had an officer, based on you being in our custody, that had to stay in the room with you, their jail area for the night. I don't know how much of the interview that officer was or was not present for from another location.
Do you recall leaving out of the interrogation room during the second interrogation?
Yes.
And at that time, did you speak with any other law enforcement?
FBI.
And do you recall what those conversations were about?
Not specifically, no.
Do you recall if there was directives given by the FBI?
Objection, hearsay.
Grounds.
Yes, do you know, not what they were. You may answer.
I don't recall if they gave directives.
Do you recall your partner stepping out of the interrogation room at any time?
Yes.
Do you know if they spoke with FBI at that time?
If my partner did?
Yes.
I don't know.
At any time during the second interrogation, did the FBI leave?
Not that I know of.
So to your recollection, they were there the whole time?
I believe so, yes.
This is painful. Look at everybody's face. Everybody's so tired. They have to bite their tongues.
I want to go back to the phone for one quick second.
He's just grabbing anything he can do. Anything he
You
can
made
ask.
reference to the kind of code on the phone. Do you recall what that was? In reference to the phones that you were intending to access.
You talking about, there were two, one of any one phone specific? You talking about the iPhone?
Yeah, the iPhone. I'm sorry.
Yes, you gave a pattern code.
And what's your point, Mr. Brooks?
And what about the other phone?
No code was ever provided that I recall.
And do you recall if those two phones were placed in evidence?
Yes, they would have been.
And did you place them in evidence?
I did not.
Do you recall whom?
I do not.
During your investigation, what? Let me back up. I want to say what. You made reference to the suspect being involved. During that initial information that you received, did you receive information that there were multiple suspects at any time?
We're talking about the parade incident at this point, yes, no?
The parade incident, yes.
Initially, yes, so, and I've covered this in prior testimony as well, it was very chaotic early on, and there were reports of possible multiple suspects, yes.
Just about does it. No further questions.
Oh
I'll read the record.
my gosh.
I have some, I would think I could get done in 10 minutes.
All right, I'm just gonna have my jury stand for a minute.
Yeah, no kidding.
Anyone else in the courtroom?
This has been like the marathon cross-examination. And now he looks like he's so pleased with himself with shuffling, straightening up his papers. But you didn't do diddly squat. You probably just made the jury tired and cranky. Plus, there were no questions that were going to help you.
All right, thank you. Please have a seat.
Carpenter, I'm going to display Exhibit 174, which has previously been admitted to evidence. Do you recognize this form?
Objection, leading.
Overruled, the witness may answer. It's been testified to previously.
Yes, I do.
There's
Sir,
that
if
damn
you
Miranda
talk
statement.
to the same person 3 different times while they're in custody, do you have to fill out a separate form each time you talk to them?
Objection.
Overruled, the witness may answer.
Yeah.
Yes.
She didn't even let
Would
him
you
give
have
his
to fill out
objection.
that top portion of the form each time?
Yes.
That's all I need for that exhibit. When we talk about, do you recall Mr. Brooks' questioning of you with regard to the recording
Objection.
made by your cell phone at
Hush,
Waukesha
Brooks.
Memorial Hospital during the first
Hush, Brooks.
meeting with the defendant?
Objection, I don't consent to being called that name.
Yeah, we don't care.
Voted overruled, the witness may answer.
Yes, I recall.
Are you familiar with the term excited utterance?
Yes, I
Objection,
am.
leading.
Overruled, the witness may answer.
What is that?
It's when an individual, whether it be Mr. Brooks or any individual, begins making statements on their own accord in not response to a question. Typically, an utterance made reference why they're in custody in the situation that you were either questioning them about or preparing to question them about.
Is it important to capture those types of utterances on tape or recording?
Objection, speculative.
Overruled, the witness may answer.
YouTube.
Yes, it is.
Would that be a reason to continue recording after an interview's been ended?
Objection, answered that already.
Overruled, the witness may answer. It's redirect.
Yes, it would.
With regard to the 2 phones, you indicated that someone else located the phones in the defendant's car. Is that correct?
Yes.
And in order to access the contents of a phone, if it's passcode protected, do you need the passcode to enter it?
Objection, leading.
Overruled, the witness may answer.
It makes it easiest. The men that do that, men and women that do that, do have ways around it, but it makes it much more difficult without it.
And would it be fair to say that there's not all software can enter into all phones without the passcode?
Objection, speculative.
Sustained as to foundation.
Have you had experience in your position
rolling
as a
your eyes.
detective seizing phones off of defendants?
Yes.
And have you had opportunities to turn those phones over to your forensic unit to have them analyzed?
Yes.
When you don't have a passcode or a swipe pattern, have you received those phones back with information that they were unable to be accessed.
Objection. Asked the form of that already and answered.
Overruled, the witness may answer.
Yes, I have.
So if you're not provided a code, or you're provided an incorrect code, there's a possibility, or are you definitely getting into that phone?
Objection. Speculative.
Overruled.
No, there is certainly a possibility that we would not be able to access the content.
You had talked about on cross-examination your reports that you dictate over a phone line. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Those you testified were based upon your recollection.
Correct.
Do you take notes during interviews?
Objection. Speculative.
Overruled. You may answer.
Learn your
Yes, I
objections.
do.
Do you use those notes at all when dictating your report?
Yes, I do.
The defendant asked you about multiple suspects. You having information about multiple suspects. Do you recall that line of questioning?
Yes, I do.
Did the defendant ever tell you that there was anyone in that car other than him driving it and possibly Erica Patterson?
Objection. Leading the witness.
Overruled, the witness may answer.
No, he did not.
Good
And
question.
finally, you've been a law enforcement officer in Waukesha County for approximately 18 years, is that correct?
Yes.
Who makes the charging decision when deciding what charges get issued in a criminal case?
Objection. Leading.
Overruled, the witness may answer.
The prosecuting attorney at the Waukesha County District Attorney's Office.
You don't decide on the charges?
No.
Objection. Relevancy.
Always relevant.
It's overruled.
We
You may.
we can forward what we believe is appropriate, but we don't ultimately make the decision to charge.
So when Mr. Brooks asked you, what am I being charged with? Did you have any ability to tell him that?
Objection. I don't consent to being called at that.
Yeah, no, we don't care.
Noted, overruled. You may answer the question.
No, ma'am. Not with 100% certainty, no.
Good questions.
Nothing further, thank you.
All right, thank you. Detective, you may step down.
Well done, Attorney
Ladies
Basie.
and gentlemen of the jury, as Detective